the cover of my book, Stronger, and it did really well. I'm very proud of it. Very lucky. I am not an author, not even a good writer, don't even pretend to be. Brett Witter is the author. I call him the author. He's definitely the author of the book. He wrote Monuments Men, a bunch of other inspiring books. He's a tremendous guy and tremendous talent. So I give all the credit to him. I'm just the main character, and I can call myself that. So I'm the main character of the book. So before all this, I told you guys, slides. There we go. Sorry. Before all this, I was just a normal kid growing up in Chelmsford. I was kind of an underachiever. I went to Middlesex, dropped out to work, and I worked, and I like to work, and I like making money. I didn't like being in debt, so that's why I dropped out of school, and I was just kind of aimless. I was very aimless, and I was living with my mom in Chelmsford, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I like to travel, I like to see the world. I got to go over to Normandy and see Omaha Beach. That was like the best thing I've ever done in my life. And to see, where those brave men lost their lives, defending our country. And that was it for me. I love France and traveling and seeing the world. That was what I like to do. And I liked playing guitar and hanging out with my friends, and obviously watching the Red Sox. And I love sports, the Bruins, Pats, Sox. I'm a hometown guy. I love sports. So my life revolved around sports, friends, playing music with my friends, and traveling at that point. And I needed a good job to do all that. So I was searching around. I was like, what's a good job? And I was going to school part-time here and there, taking classes when I could. And I was like, what's a good part-time job that has, it's a good place to work, friendly. And Costco popped up, so I applied, and I got a job up at Costco in Nashville, and I was in my mid-20s when this happened. And, I really loved Costco, so I was just, a regular guy working at Costco, graduated from Chelmsford High in 2004. And, I love Chelmsford, I love Nashville, I love this area. I'm never going to leave this area. Born and raised. So I love working at Costco, and I was hanging out with Sully and going up to Lake Winnipesaukee. I had a great life. I thought my life was, was a great life. It was a really great life. But I needed a girl, and I was having, I'd go out on dates and meet girls. And one night I met this awesome girl. She was way out of my league. I was down in Boston, and she was a college grad, and she had a full-time job at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and she was very attractive, and she was way out of my league. So I asked her out, and she said yes. So I'm just this kid that lives with his mom, works at Costco, lives in Chelmsford. So we went out, and we hit it off, and we were just really good friends, and we really liked each other's company. But she was training for this Boston Marathon, and I knew what the marathon was. I wasn't really a fan of marathons. I was like, whoever runs a marathon is absolutely crazy. It's 26.2 miles, so I would just laugh at her. Like, you're training for this marathon. Her name is Erin, and she was training hard. This was her first marathon, and I was just really excited for her and watching her train. And we were hitting it off and having a great time. And she would go out on Saturdays and run 15 miles and come back. And a couple hours later, she'd be like, "All right, what are we doing today?" And I'd be like, "What? You just ran 15 miles. I'd be dead somewhere. You'd have to find me." So, she was doing that, and I was still working at Costco and commuting, so I thought my life was great. This is the girl I'm going to be with, and she's training for this awesome marathon. I was excited to go. I was reading all about it, doing research on marathons, trying to help her out with her training, and she would try to get me to run, and I'd go out and run 2 miles with her, and I'd be like, "All right, you keep going." That's how it was. Some people are just built to run long distances, and so that famous day came, that Patriots Day. I asked my boss Maya if I could have it off, and she said yeah. She said, "All right, it's Monday, you could have it off. It's not the weekend." So at Costco, she gave me the day off, and I was really excited for her. I was like, "You better win." She was like, "Shut up, Jeff. I'm just going to try to finish." So I dropped her off, and it was a beautiful, beautiful morning. Kind of chilly. It was perfect for running. So I dropped her off early, and then I went back to her place and went back to sleep. And her friend Remy and Michelle woke me up and we made her an awesome sign. And we were watching the start of the runners start, the first, the real athletes that won the marathon. The guys that actually run it 2-something are, absolutely crazy. So they started, and we were tracking her on the bib with their bib number and tracking her. And we were really pumped up. It was, Patriots Day. I'm more familiar with the Red Sox. The Red Sox started at like 11 a.m. that day, so I was more into the Sox, flipping back and forth. And she started, her heat started, and we went to Newton. And it's like the 17-mile mark, and she was pulling up on she went through halfway, and she was pulling up on the 17-mile mark. She was on pace for about almost a 5-hour marathon, a little less, about 4:40. And I was really proud of her. We were all, Remy and Michelle were really, really proud of her. We made her this awesome sign. As you can see, I made it. I'm a lefty. You can tell that's poor, awesome creativity with poor organization skills and letters. So we brought the sign and we went to Newton, and it was my first marathon experience. It was tremendous. The firehouse was pumping, the music was going, and we're looking at all these runners go by. And I'm not getting really into it at this point. I'm watching these runners go by. I see the soldiers that are running with their ruck packs. It's like 45-pound ruck packs that are running 26.2 miles with this ruck pack. So I'm like hitting them on the back and they're giving them high fives and cheering them on. And I was really, really inspired by all these runners running for all these charities. So I was getting really into it. I was like, why haven't I done this before? This is my first marathon that I've been to. I should have been going there my whole life. So it was really cool. She was pulling up, and it's hard to kind of look through the crowd and try and pick someone out. So we were getting kind of frustrated. I see a kid run by in a hamburger suit, and I just lost it. I was going nuts. He's like, hamburger suit. He's going to run 26.2 miles in a hamburger suit. I'm all in. I'm watching the marathon. Then finally we're just about to leave to go down to the finish line, and we see her. She runs past us and we scream, and we're like, Erin, Erin, and she sees us. She comes running back. She gives us a hug, and she's like, I'll see you at the finish line. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to win at this pace. You better speed it up. So she's like, shut up, Jared, shut up. So that was it. We jumped in a cab, and we went down to downtown Boston. It was twice as packed. It was probably 3 times as packed. 100,000 people easily. We got dropped off like close to Star Road Drive, and we had to, hoof it into it, which is probably about half a mile to the finish line. So many people, it was just a tremendous atmosphere. And we get down to the finish line, and they got Boylston shut off with like the scaffolding over the road, and we're looking at all these runners come in with the tinfoil capes, and they look like they're gonna pass out, and I'm laughing, and just really inspired by all these people. We make our way through the dense crowd, and we're tracking her. She's probably about, she was probably about 5K out, a couple miles, and we were having a great time, and just like cheering on the runners. I see the kid with the hamburger suit come in, and I'm cheering again, and all the tough ruckers, they're coming in and rolling in, and she's kind of lagging behind. We're looking at her, and a kid bumps into me in the crowd, and I got a good look at him, and he was taller than me, and he bumped into me, and I stared at him because he was trying to cut through the crowd, and he looked really out of place. He was alone. He wasn't cheering. He wasn't taking pictures. So I was like, what are you doing? I didn't say that to him, but I looked at him. What are you doing? And he was kind of stopped and was looking at me for a little bit, and then I stopped paying attention to him, and he kept going. I noticed that he had a bag around his shoulder, one shoulder, and then I looked over and he wasn't there, and his bag was there. And I thought that was just really out of place, and why was his bag there? I didn't put anything together. I didn't think there was a bomb or anything, and I just thought, why would he leave his bag there? And I was like, well, he probably just went to the bathroom and he's coming back. So that's what I thought. I started to talk to Michelle, the girl that was with me. She's on my right. And we're talking. I'm like, I hope Erin's okay. We were kind of worried about Erin. She was supposed to finish about 10 minutes ago. So we were worried about her, and we were talking, and that's when it happened. So I saw a flash of white, and I heard 3 pops, and I was on my back. And I opened my eyes, and I saw smoke, and I could see the sky, and I was like, with the smell, first thing I could smell was maybe like it smelled like fireworks. So I was thinking, why did they shoot fireworks off? They must have missed. That was like they hit the crowd. knocked us down. So I lift my head and I can kind of see all the chaos around me. And then I kind of realized, it wasn't a firework. And I was like, this is serious. And I see Michelle, and she's looking at me. She had a hole in her leg, and I could see the bone in her leg. Oh man, she's really hurt. And she was staring at me. And then I just looked down and I saw my legs, and they were just, completely gone. Like 2 people had split, and I just kind of went into tunnel vision. And I was staring at my legs, and I was just going through my head, and my life just slowed down. I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to run again. I'm never going to do this. And I'm just kind of sitting there zoning out. And I kind of laid back, and people were at that point running over it, and I was just trying to get out of there, pretty much moving myself back a little bit, rolling around. And I just remember being really hot, and that smell was just awful. And I look up, and Michelle was gone, and I was like, oh, good, they got her out. And I heard another explosion. So I knew I was in bad shape. I could see both my legs were gone, and I was bleeding pretty good. And I didn't think I was going to make it. I really was looking for my cell phone to call my mom or to call, just to say, just to talk to her. And I was reaching for my cell phone. I couldn't find it, and I was still kind of just looking around. And I see this crazy guy in a cowboy hat. He's helping everybody. Somebody's yelling, grab shoelaces, grab belts. And I kind of sit up, and they're like, so I lay down, someone pushes me down. I'm like, well, I don't have a belt on. And I'm trying to talk to people, and I'm thinking, that's a really good idea, belts and shoelaces. So I see this crazy guy. He comes up to me in a cowboy hat. Well, his name's Carlos, but he comes up to me and he's hitting me. And he's like, stick with it, stay with it. And I'm talking to him, and someone comes running over. Then I just realized, I'm still with it. I got to fight. And Carlos was ripped his shirt and tied it around my right leg, and someone came over and gave me a bandage. And I was looking at my left leg, which I could see my knee was still intact, but I looked under it. It was like a skin flap and blood kind of shooting out. And I just grabbed it, and Carlos lifted me up with one hand, and he threw me in the chair. Luckily, Devin is an Asian girl. She's a BU student volunteering at the marathon as a wheelchair assistant. And she came running over with the wheelchair. Carlos and her, she said they saved my life. Carlos picked me up with one hand and threw me in the chair. And I was dropped off the curb, and Devin she had like 500 horsepower out of this tiny little girl. She was pushing me under the finish line, and we went right under the finish line. I saw the guy take this picture, and I was like, do I smile? So I was wondering where they were taking me. I thought they were going to wheel me right to the hospital. I was like, where are you guys going? And then she whipped it into the medical tent, and I saw the ambulance at the end of the medical tent, and that's when I knew I kind of got a second wind that I was going to make it. Carlos would jump in the ambulance with me, and they're like, you can't, and I was like, oh, I got to make sure he's okay. That's just how he is. He just wants to make sure you're okay. And I was like, I'm okay, I'm going to make it. And I was laying in the ambulance, and that's when it all hit me. I was like, that kid that put the bag down, he had something to do with it. And I'm thinking that, and that's all I wanted to tell people. I just wanted to tell people it's a bomb. I knew that no one would know exactly right then and there what it was. I kind of knew that just because the crowd was so dense, and how are they going to figure out who did this? I was like, I have to tell someone. So I started to tell the ambulance driver, I was like, it was a bomb. He's looking at me like I have 5 heads. He's like, you're in shock, bro. He's like, lay down. So I was telling him, and then I got let out of the ambulance, and it was like seeing out of the ER. I'm still with it, fully conscious at this point, and I'm talking to all the nurses and the staff. I'm telling them what happened. They're all like, okay. So it was kind of iffy for me at that point, and I was talking to all of them, giving them numbers, giving them everything, and I was trying to tell them how to do their job. I was like, you guys got to put me under, and I had a rough day. Just put me under. So they're calming me down. They're like, all right, Jeff, count back, start counting. And I counted, and I went under. And that was it. That was that first leg of my journey through the marathon. I made it, and I was very happy. And I woke up to my best friend Sully that Tuesday morning in my face, and I always tell people that's how I knew I wasn't in heaven. Sully. He's right there, working up, and he's like shaking. That's how he is. My friend Jill and Sully were right there looking at me, and I'm like, oh man, Jeff's awake. And Sully was trying to tell me I didn't have my legs, and I was like, yeah, know I had a breathing tube and it was right the next morning. And he gave me a piece of paper and I wrote down Lieutenant Dan on it just to mess with him from Forrest Gump. And he read it and was like, you're an idiot. You know, he's like, there's, you know, police FBI outside, state police FBI, they think you know something. And I wrote down, and I was like, he was right next to me. He was right over my right shoulder and he looked right at me. I know him. I could ID him definitely. So I wrote down, you know, exactly, they came in and they wanted to take my breathing tubes out. And my nurse was awesome, Odessa. She was the Rottweiler. She was like, back up, you know, get away. So she was my protector and she was great. Awesome staff at Boston Medical Center. That's where I got shipped to. And she was an amazing nurse and she was my protector. So she was kind of telling me, like, we need info. We need to take his breathing tubes out now. And, you know, they put me back under, took him out, and a couple hours later I got the help with a full ID. And then that was Tuesday. And, you know, as soon as I wrote down, you know, like he was 6'3", I wrote down his weight. He was white, had this hat pulled down low, it was over my right shoulder. I tried to tell him, find me in the videos and pictures. And he was right over my right shoulder at one point. You're not going to miss it. He had a black bag. And the first FBI guy looked at that and he ran out. I didn't see him again. And he was gone. And then I worked with a Boston PD sketch artist that came in on Wednesday night. So I was working with the FBI and the state police and the Boston police a little bit here and there. And I had like 2 agents outside my door for the first week, which was really made me feel safe because the manhunt was still going on. And no one knew what was going to happen. They were still chasing these kids. They were hijacking cars. They were, you know, on kind of like a rampage. They executed an MIT officer, Sean Collier. And, that was, you know, when I saw that, I was just so beside myself. Like, someone has to catch these kids. I was really following the manhunt at that point on TV. It was either that or see pictures of myself in the wheelchair. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to follow the manhunt. So that was it. And I was, you know, I went to the secondary ICU about a week later, and I was on my road to recovery. I had 25 sutures in each leg. I only had about 3 surgeries because the bomb did most of the work. It took off, you know, pretty much everything, which I'm very, very, very lucky. I consider myself lucky because there's still survivors that are still going through surgeries right now, shrapnel wounds. And I was hurt bad. I was burnt all up in my body, all up in my midsection, up through my back. I was not quite extra crispy. I was like the original recipe. And I had a hole in my arm, my right arm, that was pretty bad. They had to pack it from the inside out. So I still had a lot of wounds, and I still had a lot of healing to go. And I was in the secondary ICU for a couple of weeks, and then I got shipped over to Spalding Rehab, and they tortured the heck out of me. They tortured me pretty good. They were strapping weights to my legs and making me do all kinds of push-ups, sit-ups. It was really, really, really frustrating. I was like, why do I have to do all this? I had no idea. I was like, why are you strapping weights to my legs? They still have like sutures on me. My PTs were just like, just do it, you know, just do it. And I got to meet some wounded warriors and some really, really cool people that had prosthetics that came in, and they were really super inspiring to me because I didn't think I was going to ever be able to walk or stand again. And then I see, you know, like Gabe Martinez, who was a Marine. He was just like me, a double AK above the knee. He walked in, and I was like, hey, it's Gabe Martinez. You know, he was grabbing me, yelling in my face, like, you're going to be able to walk. You're going to be able to, you know, effing walk, like swearing at me. Like, all right, take it easy. But I'm thinking, you know, I'm not a Marine. I'm not as tough as these guys. I'm never going to be able to walk like them. That's what I was thinking. These guys were really, really, really tough, out of my league. And I had some cool visitors too, like Bradley Cooper came in. My grandmother always asked, where's that handsome Bradley fellow? Never met him again, so. And Julian Edelman, which is awesome. He's the best. It's great. And you know, I got moved next to Michelle in Spalding, and I got to, you know, see her. She didn't lose her leg, but she had to get her Achilles rebuilt. And you know, the story was continuing and progressing. I really didn't know what was outside of the hospital room. I really started, I was kind of focused on myself, and I was learning that, you know, we lost 3 people, including an 8-year-old boy, Martin Richard, and I heard that, and I was, you know, really, really devastated when I heard that, and I was, you know, kind of broken for a while. I know Lindsay and Crystal Campbell, they were also lost that day. They were older, they were they weren't 8 years old. They got to kind of live their life, and like I thought, you know. So I was really kind of thrown back by Martin, and you know, I really felt for his family. And I still do. I think about him every day. And I try to live my life, you know, thinking about him, because he's not here anymore, so I got to live my life to the fullest. So he's an inspiration to me, and he will always be an inspiration to me. So I was realizing what was kind of going on piece by piece outside of my hospital room, and I was meeting other survivors, which was really tough. It was really heart-wrenching to meet other survivors, and I got to meet Carlos, the guy that saved my life, and that was actually the first time I cried when I met him. I heard his story. He lost his 2 sons, one in the war in Iraq, and then one to suicide on his brother's anniversary that he lost his life. And when I heard his story, I was really shook up. I was like, this guy has so much loss in his life. It was kind of all hit me like an avalanche. It was really hit me hard in the hospital and suffered a lot of emotions. And I had the Bruins reached out to me and they were like, "We're in the playoffs." I was like, "I know you're in the playoffs. I watch you guys all the time." So they called me and they're like, "They want you to wave the flag at the Bruins game." I was like, "No. There's like 19,000 people there. I can't go in a crowd like that. Like, you have to do it." And so I said no at first, and that's pretty much what I always do. I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." And then I get convinced to do it, and I know I look like I'm not having a good time at the Bruins game, but I went out there and it was, you know, tremendous. I got to meet a lot of the Watertown guys that were in the shootout, and I'm still friends with them now. And I got to meet a lot of people just getting out of my hospital, getting out of Spalding for a couple hours, which was really cool. And I got to see the Bruins playoff game, but I wasn't allowed to go because every time I went, they lost. So towards the end, my friends would be calling me and be like, "Hey, you're not going tonight, right?" "Yeah, I'm not going tonight." They're on right now, so thank you guys for coming here. Maybe we can throw them up on the Tron after. So I was still continuing, and I was doing this EEI interview, and the Red Sox wanted me to throw out the first pitch. And so, like, the Bruins waving the flag, that's cool and everything, but, you know, the first pitch in the chapel Fenway Park, I was like, my heart was beating. I was like, "No, I'm in a wheelchair, I'm gonna bounce it, I can't do this." So I was really nervous when they asked me. I was like, "All right, if Carlos can come with me," and they're like, "Deal, he can come." They're like, Who do you want to throw to?" And I was like, Salta Macchio was the catcher at the time. I knew he'd make me look good, or at least save me if I bounced it. So I was planning on it. So like, "Who do you want to meet?" And I was like, "Pedro Martinez." They're like, I don't know if we can do Pedro. And I was like, "He works for you guys. I know he's there." So I just go there, and this is like, you know, Fenway Park. I've never even been close to going on the field. So I was nervous. I get there in my chair, and I was about to drop on the field. I didn't want to do it, and they kind of pushed me onto the field. And I was like, "I'm going to mess up the field. Get on the field now." So they kind of forced me on the field, and I went down. First thing I did was grab the crushed brick right there, and I grabbed it, and I just put it in my pocket. That was, you know, I was on Fenway, and now I can go on there anytime. That first time, I was like, that's Fenway Park. I was at 35,000 people, and I had to throw out the first pitch, so I practiced. I played long toss for a little bit with my friends, my friend Guy, and played long toss. We were throwing back beers, and you know, they were all coming up, all my friends. I got to bring about 12 friends with me to the game, and 2 vans, and we could drink whatever we want. So after that, they didn't let that happen. But we were all out on the field, and Pedro snuck up on me and gave me a hug, and him and Carlos were talking Spanish, talking trash about me. So they were talking, and Pedro was showing me all his pitches, and then Pedro comes out and he's like, "Hey, you better not bounce it." So I wheel out there, and Carlos pushed me out, and it was awesome. 35,000 people went nuts. I was shaking, and I threw a strike. It was like a tailing fastball, painted outside corner right in the back. 35,000 people went nuts, and I was just like shaking for 3 days. As I was wheeling off, this guy was shaking his prosthetic leg at me right there in the handicap section. And I was like, "What's this guy doing?" I was like, "Put your leg back on." But that's what amputees do. They challenge each other to get up. He was challenging me to get up. That was in early June, so just a couple months after. So he was challenging me to get up, and so now I realized what he was doing. He's like, "Hey, you need some legs." So that was cool. Then I saw him, and then the next week after that, I was in getting my prosthetics. So this is a whole different world for me. As you can see, I have a foot component, a knee component, and then a socket. So it's a three-piece set, and I got to get fitted for them. It's like plaster. It's like arts and crafts. They put this plaster around your leg and get a good shape of your leg. It's like a cast. And that's what they go by to put this carbon fiber, which is the final product, so I can stand and use the knee. So that was really interesting, the way that they did that. I had no idea. This is a whole new world for, I think, everybody. It's really, really cool. And when I held the knee for the first time, I was like, this is amazing. It has Bluetooth, it has 2 microprocessors in it to kind of sense my movement. The microprocessors work off these gyroscopes, kind of like the gyroscope in a Segway. So it's like it senses my movements, like where my balance point is, and it'll add resistance to a piston in the back. You guys are all science folks. It's really far out there. It's truly amazing. It's made by this company, Auditorium, which is out of Germany. And they are, really, really, really a great company. And I really enjoy them. They are nothing but great to me. So I got fitted, and I held my leg, and it's a 3-piece setup, and it's, for one leg was $90,000 to start on, and I was like, oh man. I was joking. I was like, I'm going to sell both my legs on eBay and buy a leg again. No, you are, Jeff. You're an idiot. So I stood up for the first time in late June, and I was standing out of my wheelchair. I was beside myself to be able to stand and feel my hip flexors like rip out of my body. So I was sitting for 2 months. And I stood up, and I could look at Erin, who was with me. She's right there. And we were crying, and she give me a hug and see me eye to eye. So I was standing, looking at her eye to eye, and I could give her a hug and a kiss, and I was like, yes, this is my new life. I don't have to be bound to this wheelchair anymore. So I was really, really excited about that, but it hurt. I couldn't stand for more than like 5 minutes at a time. My hip flexors and my muscles were just kind of atrophied, I guess. Not used to that because I was in a wheelchair for a couple months. So back to PT I went back to Spalding, got a new physical torturist, that's what I call it. And Michelle Kerr, she would torture me for a year and a quarter, just on my case, getting me to do stuff that I didn't want to do. And she's the reason why I'm standing and moving so well. I thank her and Spalding Rehab with amazing stuff there. And I was moving on with my life and walking and getting out more and getting invited to do cool things. Obama wrote me a nice letter, and it was like, you and Carlos have to come down. Actually, he wrote my daughter a letter, which was really cool, which was interesting. And he wrote me a letter being like, you have to come down and come to the State of the Union. And I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. In Washington, D.C., I was like, man, that's crazy. So I went down there, and I got to meet some really, really cool people. This guy, Cody Ramsberg, he was one of the honorary guests. He was an Army Ranger that got blown up in Afghanistan. His other troops found him like face down after he got hit by an IED. He was face down in a puddle for like 2 minutes, and he's still alive. And to see him, and he was interacting with me, and he was just happy to see me, and he's really happy to be there. So it's really cool to meet him. And I tweeted this out. I wore pants for the first time in 9 months, and I also met the president. I hardly ever wear pants. They just kind of get in the way of the knees. And I had some really cool stuff. I had to move out of my mom's house in Chelmsford, the 2-bedroom apartment. I had to move out. I didn't want to, but Erin was like, hey, it's either you stay here and I'm going, or we both go. And I was like, all right, I'll come with you. So I bought a house in Carlisle, right down the street. I love it. It was a ranch, so it's easy to get into. Didn't really have to do anything handicap-wise at first. And I could get in and out very easy. And we had to get a dog. We got this dog, Bandit. He's a rescue. He's a Catahoula. And he's tremendous. He's a firecracker. He's high energy, and he's a really, really cool dog. Awesome attitude. And I got to, keep on doing cool things. And I love to, Carlos he's a huge friend of mine right now, and he's always there for me. And he got me to go down to the finish line the first year after, and he was, handing out American flags. That's what he was doing the year before. He was across the street from where the bomb was, and he was handing out American flags to the guys with the ruck packs running through the race. And, he does it every year now. He's amazing. He's just full of energy when it comes to that stuff, and he supports the troops. And He's this really cool guy. He's a very cool guy. I went down, got to hang out with him, hang out with James Taylor and Carole King. Carole King hit on me. She said I had my size.